Hello, dear friends. I'm sorry to give bad news, but the economic figures are undeniable. Europe's elite do not have the same interests as its people, and Italy could be the first country to rebel. Opinion piece. Europe is sinking, worse than the USA. The West's downfall. It is in the doldrums. It is like the Titanic. The crisis will not be mild. Incompetent leaders, self-inflicted sanctions, third world economy, chaos in old systems. Inflation rises since February. Germany limits heating to 90 degrees Celsius. Eurozone has entered recession. European Union pays 89% more for its energy. Inflation in Europe worse than in Mexico. Spain's stock market has its worst downward streak on record. The aim is to make the event simple, smooth and quick. Let's start. Europe is turning into a third world economy, unfortunately. These days, the European stock market is the worst in the Western world, closing in the red for the third day in a row. It is underperforming the US by 10 basis points, down 22% so far this year, according to Forbes. All the data confirm that the crisis is not going to be mild. The latest data from the Eurozone show that the bloc's economy remains in contractionary territory. From contraction, not for contradiction. The global economy is increasingly at risk of sliding into recession as consumers face the highest inflation in a generation, curbing spending and central banks tightening monetary policy aggressively. On a tightrope. Europe is on a tightrope of the energy crisis. The Eurozone has already entered a recession triggered by rising energy prices and expected to last until the end of the year, according to the economists at UBS Group AG. The European Union pays Russia 89% more for its energy since the war in Ukraine. European stock markets remain in negative territory. No macro data and pending the euro. The Spanish stock market has its worst downward streak since November 2017. This is like the Titanic. In quotes, if Europe sinks, the first-class passengers sink too, said former Minister Margallo years ago. Gas prices in Europe are above $3,200 a cubic meter for the first time since March. Finland, Sweden and Denmark urge Norway not to limit electricity supply. The European Union cuts its maize crop again and raises its wheat estimate. No green light from Brussels for unblocking Hungary's European Union funds. Germany limits heating to 90 degrees and turns off its monuments from September. Germany inaugurates the world's first hydrogen-powered train line. German inflation could hit a 70-year high of 10% amid Russia's natural gas curbs, says Germany's central bank chief. The Bundesbank has said that the recession is increasingly like in Germany, the Eurozone's economic locomotive, and that inflation will continue to accelerate and could exceed 10% this autumn. More negative is the outlook for the UK. Inflation could peak at 18.6% in January, more than 9 times the Bank of England's target. Electricity prices in Europe have soared so much that they are now equivalent to more than $1,000 per barrel of oil, according to Bloomberg. French MEPs protest at the sewage spill in the UK. Portugal declares a state of calamity for a year over a fire in Natural Park. Definition: European culture is the root of Western civilization, whose lineage can be traced back to ancient Greece and Rome. The fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 after Christ, and the subsequent period of migration marked the end of Europe's ancient history and the beginning of the Middle Ages. The humanism, exploration, art and science of the Renaissance led to the modern era. From the age of discovery initiated by Spain and Portugal, Europe played a predominant role in world affairs. Between the 16th and 20th centuries, European powers at various times colonized the Americas, most of Africa and Oceania, and most of Asia. In 1949, the Council of Europe was founded, with the idea of unifying Europe to achieve common goals and prevent future wars. Further European integration by some states led to the formation of the European Union, a separate political entity that is somewhere between a confederation and a federation. Inflation. Since last February, inflation has done nothing but rise. Basic necessities, electricity, energy and fuel are the goods and services that have seen the highest price increases, and worst of all, experts do not foresee much better future, according to Jaime Quirós. Inflation in Europe, in countries like the UK and Germany, is even worse than in Mexico, according to Forbes. And the reason is sanctions against Russia on energy as punishment for its special operation in Ukraine, which in turn triggered a huge rise in commodity prices that has further hurt the European economy. Some say this is good for Europe because supposedly by abandoning Russian oil and gas, European Union leaders are signaling to their member states and citizens that they are moving to a post-fossil fuel economy. Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Community, compares the end of the fossil fuel era to Europe's moon mission. However, the piece specifies, in quotes, these actions and rhetoric will not move Europe away from fossil fuels. Europe has to go back to coal to cut off Russian gas, and it is burning more of it to keep the lights on. Germany's claim to stop buying Russian coal does not in fact imply a reduction in its use. The fact that Germany says it is giving up Russian coal means only one thing: it is getting it from somewhere else. The Forbes piece notes, the West has shot itself in the foot on energy, done great damage to climate change initiatives, and risk higher food prices due to falling fertilizer production, also thanks to sanctions against Russian suppliers and higher energy prices. And if Brussels didn't want Russian coal before the conflict in Ukraine, it can certainly use it now. Russian coal exports alone are equivalent in energy terms to 160 billion cubic meters of natural gas, according to Forbes, which is equivalent to Russia's total pipeline gas exports to all of Europe, according to the newspaper. For now, macroeconomic traders are looking for two signals for Europe and the world economy. These are either a ceasefire in Ukraine or that Europe is so desperate this winter that it has no choice but to relax some sanctions. Reset news. The Space Force takes over all military satellites. Middle East a powder keg. The Taiwan conflict is about to explode. Military strikes in Africa. Tension grows in South America. Chaos erupts on the US border. South Africans protest against rising living costs, unemployment and inflation. Oil and gas producers will have a record cash surplus thanks to high prices. The world's highest unemployment rate in 15 years and the plight of young people. Young people aged 15 to 24 have the most problems in finding quality jobs. They have a higher unemployment rate than other working age groups, according to Argentinian economist Alfredo Zayat. The cryptocurrency Helium is up more than 11% in 24 hours. Tether and other stable coins are at risk from Europe's MiCA law. Rumors. A senior source believed that the currency revaluation could occur any time between now and mid-October, unless an arrest of Rubio caused a delay until November. The delay was more one of the military logistics and resistance to the underground tunnel, which was in the process of being aggressively completed. When they say fasten your seatbelt, I think we are getting to the point where that really applies. The team has spent many years setting all this up, and it's getting crazier and crazier. Juan Osabin said, "You have no idea who is a black hat or a white hat, or who is a double or triple or quadruple agent. There is chaos in all systems from within." What could be the effect of the new BRICS world reserve currency? Asks Steve Wood. The new BRICS standard could put an end to gold and silver price manipulation. NESARA merged with GSARA. The announcement would affect a total of 206 sovereign nations. The new financial system is framed under the GSARA law. The IMF will announce the gold standard global monetary system once GSARA is announced. All remaining fiat currencies will be exchanged for gold standard currency. Paper money will eventually be eliminated, and all currencies will be digital under the new financial system. If the new currency represents gold, then it must be freely exchangeable for gold or silver coins to prove this relationship continuously. Otherwise, we only have the word of the government that it is so, and you say, what is it worth? This was the same relationship that silver certificates had with silver dollars. But in addition, if it is freely exchangeable for gold and silver coins, these coins must also be spendable to continually prove their value. These coins must exist, be spendable and verifiable at coin dealers. Objective. The objective is to make the transition event simple, smooth and quick. The new financial system has been online for months in secondary banking and is hosted on a protected quantum server that cannot be hacked or accessed without permission. In particular, the wealth proliferation aspect is actually very stabilizing. People who have acquired any wealth in extremis are much more likely to feel able to help their family, close friends and fellow citizens. They are more likely to engage in humanitarian efforts. This is wealth creation. Revaluation of currencies could see a shortage of skilled workers with wealth creation, but this then leads to higher wages and salaries. That will be reflected in prices. This is countered by lower taxes of, in some cases, up to 80% of the cost price of the final product, which would lead to deflation. As prices fall, Savings of the Weka and his family increase. This generates wealth. Energy cost is now also an important component of the cost mechanism of any product. The cost of energy will also come down as a result of free energy and new technologies. The future will be amazing and our lives will evolve immensely. Wealth. Money and banks are tools to control us, with a debt-based economy that can never bring prosperity. Consequently, paper money and banks will eventually disappear, but currency will not disappear. The biggest effect in the short term will be that the revaluation of currencies will create a huge increase in consumers over time. Corporations that produce things responsibly that people really need will see a big increase in business and profits for many years to come. This produces wealth. Because a major aspect of G0 is the elimination of the national debt of all nations in the world, taxes will be adjusted to be lower for citizens and corporations. Only a flat sales tax of around 15% of new pieces will be applied. The pyramided structure of the global elite, which includes most governments and corporations, has become dysfunctional. It created class separation and fostered a belief in scarcity. Part of spiritual evolution is born when one's identity is no longer attached to material affairs. When there is free energy, transport and replicators distributed to all, we will be equal. No one will be enslaved. People will simply do what they want to do, and they will have free time to reflect and be creative. There is no need to accumulate anything. Advanced civilizations don't wonder where their next meal will come from, how they will pay the rent, or how they will get from A to B. America. US home buyers flock to Mexico in search of cheap deals. China is increasingly investing in Mexico to avoid US tariffs. Mexico creates Litio MX, the company that will exploit its white gold. New group of 400 migrants leave southern Mexico to demand permits. Environmentalists call for punishment for yachts fire on Mexico's protected Balandra Beach in the Gulf of California. In 2021, in Mexico, there were 180 violations of human rights of defenders. The alleged mastermind of the murder of Mexican journalists Margarito Martinez is arrested. 35% of Mexicans approve the opposition alliance Va por Mexico. Guatemala launches its Marca País initiative to promote its image on a global scale. Potatoes could be the solution Colombia needs for its fuels. Petro proposes to the US not to extradite drug traffickers who negotiate and do not reoffend. Details of the killing of 3 young men in Colombian police are revealed. Officials said that the victims were criminals killed in combat. This is false, obviously. Colombia will donate human skin to Cuba for the victims of the fire in Matanzas. Cuba is looking for alternatives to try to recover its electricity generation capacity. Cuba boosts fuel imports and reorganizes shipping operations after the fire. Santiago de Cuba will host the 18th International Circus Festival. Peru's president changes 3 cabinet ministers. Informal miners blockade road in southern Peruvian Amazon due to tax operations. Peruvian prosecutors ask for 29 years in prison against former mayor of Lima in the Lava Jato case. The Peruvian Catholic Church calls on civil society to take action to overcome the political crisis. Peru expects copper prices to fall in 2023. Bolivia's president calls for a march in support of his government. Bolivia says it has consolidated good relations with its neighbors. Ecuador's typical gastronomy boasts flavors at the Hueca Fest in Quito. Ecuador's president vetoes a gang law reform that limits freedom of expression. Bolivia's largest region declares red alert for forest fires. Bolivia informs Argentina and Paraguay about measures for spill in the Pilcomayo. A group of scientists from Argentina, Bolivia and Paraguay are promoting a project to optimize early diagnosis of Chagas disease in South America. Newborn babies were confirmed to have been killed in a public hospital in Argentina. Justice has arrested the nurse and is investigating whether she had accomplices. Argentina and Germany agreed to promote renewable energy projects. Chinese investment in Argentina will allow the production of fertilizers. A plant will be set up in the Argentine province of Tierra del Fuego to produce 900,000 tons of urea and 600,000 tons of synthetic ammonia per year. Yachts, whiskey and bull semen on Argentina's new blacklist. Uruguay gives a passport to a drug trafficker and starts the first tomb for La Calle Pou. Chile wants to reduce the working week for 40 hours. Chilean police arrest a Mapuche leader accused of organizing arson attacks. A mysterious purple cloud appears in the village in northern Chile, and the reason could lead to a lawsuit. It appeared in Pozo Almonte, Tarapacá region. Panamanians crowd to buy food in government shops. Nicaragua faces a destabilizing campaign ahead of municipal elections. Nicaragua asks Interpol to arrest businessman accused of alleged money laundering. La Prensa de Nicaragua denounces the theft of its property and of a building in Managua. Nicaragua has closed down nearly 1,500 NGOs since the crisis erupted. Venezuela's Bolivar devalues 10% against the dollar in one day. The collapse of the Bolivar ends a period of financial stability in Venezuela. Venezuelan Attorney General reports the launch of a plan against the speculators. The Venezuelan Trade Federation urges caution with the opening of trade with Colombia. Venezuelan government and companies are looking for a real export offer. Venezuela installs the superior industrial body of the state of Táchira to boost its sector. Haitian police arrest Episcopal Church accountant and accuse him of arms trafficking. Brazil will harvest a record of 308 million tons in the next agricultural harvest. Brazil expects to seize a large volume of illegal pesticides this year. Brazilian authority to investigate banks for credit card fraud. Police operation in Brazil against businessmen who defended the coup d'etat. Cooperatives pull the recycling business in Brazil. Lazos de Agua reinforces its mission to provide access to safe water in Latin America. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.